with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. I had some pretty high hopes for my son until today. I thought maybe this kid has a chance of becoming one of the very, very rare male Boyle successors. I was hoping he might be able to bring to an end the Boyle Curse. The male Boyle Curse, because it goes me and my brother. Nothing needs to be said there, you understand. Then it goes my dad, a bald bricky. Then it goes my granddad, Graham, who was a paper bag salesman and got wiped out in the plastic bag tsunami of the 70s. He also drove around with a big teacup on the top of his car for years, which speaks for itself as well. Then his father, the old one-eyed Mick, who had his eyeballs stabbed out with a fork by one of his brothers over a raw potato. And I don't know who preceded one-eyed Mick, but I'm gonna take a pretty safe bet that he wasn't the Lord of Dublin. It's a fucking miracle our lineage even made it this far. But I was holding out hope that my son would buck the trend because he's got the Indian blood too. I was thinking that might be enough to dilute the Irish out of him. But it might just be the name Boyle. It might not even be genetics. It might just be the very fact of calling someone Boyle. Because today he put a little bit of fear in me. First thing that raised some concerns today was one of the aunties tried to give him a haircut at home and fucked it up worse than I fucked his hair up last year. He looked like a full blower. He looked spectrumy as fuck. I was like, Jesus Christ, you have to have a good haircut. You can't have a crooked fringe. It's not the look for you. So he's walking around and he's looking like a specky. And then for whatever reason, we decide today is the day we take him to a mirror maze. A room full of mirrors that is set up in such a way that it's difficult to find your way out. And I didn't think this was going to be a major problem. I thought it was just going to be a little bit of fun and games. Just a little bit of fun and games. That was until 3 steps... That was until 3 steps into the maze, my kid walks directly into the first fucking mirror. Directly. Like, didn't even put his hands out, led with his nose. Just slammed straight into the fucking mirror. I'm like, what just fucking happened? I hadn't even walked in yet. They're like, he walked into the mirror. I'm like, what? How? Don't you walk into these things with like your hands out in front of you? So he started crying and everyone's making a fuss. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It's a fucking mirror maze. So he finally calms down a little bit. I don't know if his nose is broken or not because apparently he slammed into that mirror pretty hard. So we continue walking and my son's now got some confidence and he's walking through the maze. He's leading everyone and he turns the corner and walks directly smack bang straight in, nose first, into another mirror. No hands out, no hands out or anything, just nose first into a fucking mirror. And I saw this one and he slammed into the fucking mirror. I'm like, didn't you learn from your fucking first mirror? How many more mirrors are you going to slam into before you put your hands out? So he's crying again and now he's scared of the mirrors. You can't get him to fucking walk through. You can't get him to even walk through the maze because he doesn't know what's going to pop out in front of him. I think he thought the walls were moving and just dropping in front of him or something. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. Anyway, we finally get him out and he's very wary. He's very wary of the world now. And I'm like, I can't have him fucking walking around afraid that walls are going to pop out in front of him anymore. I'm like, I've got to take him back through the maze. I've got to help him overcome his fear of mirrored walls. So I take him back into the maze and he walks into the maze nose first again. And I have to literally stop him from walking directly into the first fucking mirror. Nose first again. He was just leading nose first. I had to stop him. I'm like, stop, wait. I'm like, look straight ahead. And I'm like, what do you see? And he's like, I see me. And I'm like, yeah, all right. If you see you walking towards you, try not to run into yourself. And he's like, like that old Seinfeld joke about the budgie flying into the mirror. At least try and avoid the other budgie coming towards you. And he's like, if I see me, I shouldn't run into me. And I'm like, yes, son, that's right. And we really need to rethink your future. And then after that, I took him into the haunted house, which was kind of fucking freaky as well. It was an Indian version. You didn't know whether it was real or not. You pretty much could have just walked through the streets of India. That's the haunted house. And so he walked out of there bawling his eyes out, and I think he's afraid of ghosts now. But it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it fucking is. Anyway, let's move on to this week's lecture. Professor Boyle is back. Take your seats. Turn your fucking phones off because the lecture is about to commence. So this week I'm going to take you retards through the process of turning crude oil, the shit you get from the ground, into petrol and all the other shit that it makes. Because I'm tipping you cunts just thought it was straight from the ground into your jet skis, didn't you? Well, it's not. This is how it's done. So, oil is drilled from the ground or the ocean, from under the ocean. And it's just thick, sloppy black shit when it's pulled out of the ground. It's pretty much fucking useless. It's got like fish heads in there and shit and snails and worms and whatever it's got in there. So this black gunk has all that shit in it, but it also has a bunch of different hydrocarbons in it. Don't worry your little fucking heads about the word hydrocarbon too much. It doesn't mean shit to you. You don't even need to remember it. You're never going to say the word hydro fucking carbon again in your life. It's just a mix of different shit in there. It's not just one thing. So because this thick black gunk is a bunch of different shit mixed together, you need to put it through a process of untangling all that shit. And the way they do that is through a process called fractional distillation. So what they do is they take the crude oil and they heat it up. They heat it up to a very high temperature until it turns into a gas. And then this gas is fed into a fractional distiller. It's like a big vat type thing. And what happens is this gas isn't just the gas of one thing. It's the gas of a bunch of different shit. And all the different shit in there has different temperatures that they turn back into liquids. So when it gets put into this big vat, down the bottom of the vat, it's very hot. And then at the top of the vat, it's cold. And obviously from the bottom to the top, there's varying different temperatures. So what happens is this gas goes into the fucking vat. The component of the gas, which is LPG, floats all the way to the top of this vat and goes out. The top of the vat is about 20 degrees Celsius. So the LPG floats to the top. That's like your barbecue shit, your lighters, all that sort of shit. Then the next layer down is between 30 degrees and 105 degrees Celsius. So when the gas floats to that point, it cools down and the liquid it turns into is petrol, your car fucking petrol. Then the next part of the vat is between 105 degrees Celsius and 160. And when the gas reaches there, it turns into a liquid, which is called naphtha. And that liquid is what they use to make like plastics and shit. Then below that, it's a little bit hotter. It's between 160 degrees and 230 degrees Celsius. When the gas hits there, it turns into the liquid we call kerosene, which they use for jet fuel. Then underneath that, it's a little bit hotter. It's between 230 degrees and 423 degrees. When the gas hits there, it turns into a liquid we like to call diesel. And then the very last product, the bottom shit that slides out of the vat is bitumen, like the shit they make roads out of. Can you believe this shit? I mean, I have known this for a very, very long time, but it's all made out of the same shit. I thought you might think it might be different fucking things, but it's not. It's all the same shit. And so that is how crude oil is turned into all that shit. That's the end of the lecture today. Any questions? Good. I'll see you next week. That's it for tonight, and I'll see ya the fuck later.